was Christmas Eve, 1945, in Fayetteville, West Virginia. The Sodder family, George, Jennie, and their 10 children, were preparing for the holiday. The home was warm, filled with decorations and laughter, but by morning, 5 of the children would vanish, and the house would lie in ashes. Around 1 a.m., Jennie awoke to the smell of smoke. Flames were spreading rapidly through the wooden home. She rushed to wake George and the children. Panic filled the house as the parents gathered as many children as they could. But 5, Maurice, Martha, Louie, Jennie, and Betty, were trapped upstairs. George tried desperately to save them. He smashed a window, cutting his arm. He ran to fetch a ladder, but the ladder that was always leaning against the house was missing. He tried starting his trucks to climb them, but both trucks mysteriously refused to start. Time was running out. The family screamed as fire consumed the house. Within 45 minutes, the Sodder home collapsed into a smoldering ruin. The parents, along with 4 surviving children, stood outside in horror. 5 children were gone. When daylight came, firefighters sifted through the ashes, but there were no remains. No bones, no evidence that 5 young children had burned. Experts said bones should have survived. Jennie began to suspect something terrible. Maybe the children hadn't died in the fire at all. Earlier that night, Jennie had answered a strange phone call. A woman asked for someone Jennie didn't know, then laughed and hung up. The call still haunted her. Was it connected? Investigators discovered that the family's phone line had been cut, not destroyed by fire, but deliberately severed. This deepened suspicions that the blaze was no accident. George Sodder, originally from Italy, was outspoken against Mussolini. In the Italian community, this earned him enemies. Some claim the fire was retribution and that his children had been taken as punishment. Jennie spoke with cremation experts. They told her even after intense fires, bones remain. She tested it by burning animal bones herself in stoves. They always survived. This strengthened her belief. Her children did not die in that fire. Reports began to surface. Strangers claimed to have seen the children alive. One woman said she saw them in a car watching the fire. Another reported seeing them at a diner the next morning. A hotel worker swore she saw them weeks later, accompanied by Italian-speaking adults. The Sodders refused to give up. In 1950, they erected a massive billboard along Route 16 with photos of the missing children. It read, "What was their fate? Kidnapped? Murdered?" For decades, the billboard stood, reminding travelers of the unsolved mystery. In 1968, Jennie received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a photograph of a young man who resembled Louis Sodder, one of the missing children, now grown. On the back was a cryptic note, "I love Brother Frankie. Illa boys, a 901, 32, or 35. The handwriting only deepened the mystery. Some believed the children were kidnapped by an organized group, perhaps the mafia, perhaps Mussolini loyalists. Others believed they were adopted into new families. A few thought the parents were deluding themselves, unable to accept their loss. An inquest into the fire declared it an accident. Officials said faulty wiring caused the blaze, but George had just had the house rewired and the power had worked fine. The Sodders accused authorities of a cover-up. For the rest of her life, Jennie Sodder wore black in mourning. She kept the children's room exactly as it had been. Every Christmas, she placed gifts for the missing 5. She never gave up hope they were alive. George traveled across the country following leads. Sometimes he chased shadows. Sometimes he found people who claimed to know something, but he never found his children. He died in 1969, still searching. The 5 surviving Sodder children grew up under the shadow of mystery. They supported their parents' belief that their siblings were alive. They too received strange letters, calls, and tips throughout their lives. Remember the ladder that went missing that night? It was later found tossed in a ditch far from the house. Someone had deliberately moved it. This detail reinforced the theory of sabotage. George's trucks, which failed to start during the fire, were later inspected. They were in working order. Mechanics said it was impossible that both would fail at the same time, unless tampered with. The local fire department didn't respond until the next morning. By then, it was too late to find useful evidence. Some said this delay was incompetence. Others believed it was intentional. Jennie reported recurring dreams where her children called to her from far away, begging her to find them. To her, the dreams were not grief, they were messages. Some investigators suggested the children were taken by relatives in Italy. Others believed they were kidnapped into child trafficking rings. With each passing year, the theories multiplied. The mysterious photo of Louis was investigated by the FBI. They could not confirm its authenticity. The Sodder family, however, believed it was proof. They kept the photo framed in their home until their deaths. Decades later, the Sodder fire remains one of the strangest unsolved cases in American history. Did the 5 children perish in the fire, or were they stolen away into another life? The truth remains buried. The disappearance of the Sodder children is more than a mystery. It is a story of grief, of relentless hope, and of unanswered questions. The billboard may be gone, but the story endures. And as long as it does, people will continue to ask, what happened to the Sodder children?